Hi guys, welcome to the Pilosopo Podcast. My name is Jigga Jr., your host. And with us today, we have former barangay councilor of, or barangay captain of councilor of Barangay Kamputao, Lahug, and now Cebu City Councilor, Attorney Raymond Alvin Garcia. Hi, and welcome to the Pilosopo Podcast, Raymond.
Well, I'm very excited. Even the subject, even how you call it, Pilosopo, it's very interesting.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, the reason behind the name is, the word Pilosopo has always had a bad rap in these places in the Philippines,
Yes.
right? Pilosopo kayo na siya. It's a bad thing here in the Philippines. But the truth is, kung Pilosopo ka, di ba, mo reason out, you use
Correct.
maybe like philosophy to reason out your answer to a question, for example. So I want to wrestle that name from being a bad word to a good word. Okay na naman pinulosopo because that's part
Yeah.
of understanding who we are as human beings, right? So mo ni rason na nga Pilosopo Podcast. Welcome to the show. And
Thank you for having me.
it's always a pleasure to talk to you, whether there's a camera in front of us or not. Raymond, first and foremost, this is my first question all the time when it comes to this format, this podcast. What is the operating system that sustains you, that allows you to get up every single morning and do what you do for the past how many years now? What is that?
It's really public service. I grew up with my dad being the vice mayor of the city of Cebu,
Okay.
and also the mayor of the city of Cebu. And I have seen him, help others, help people, using his own personal money, for example, his own personal time. And then when he became a public official, then he was able to gear the resources of government to help so many people in so many ways. So that's one of the things that really gets me up in the morning, to be excited about my whole day. Of course, it goes without saying that family is also what gets me up in the morning. Of course, you want to spend time with your loved ones, especially my daughter. So those are the two good things that really make me want to get up in the morning and be excited about the day.
Public service.
Right.
So, Raymond, what is your maybe perhaps educational, spiritual, or even family background that has led you to become who you are now, has led to this moment right here, right now? What is that?
Well, spiritual, we have always been, my family has been devout Catholics.
Okay.
And we always adhere to the teachings of God. For example, my lolas and lolos, grandparents on both sides, are very devout Catholics. And also I got my parents as well, so they got it from the grandparents. And this sense of helping others is also something that we got from our forefathers, so to speak. Education, education has been something that has been taught from generation to generation. I remember my grandfather, Jesus Garcia, who himself is a lawyer, is a lawyer, and he was also a public servant,
Okay.
having served in the Constitutional Commission in 1972 to make the Philippine Constitution. One of the things that he said before was, you have to give emphasis on education. And that is something that my dad got from him. And so when it came to education, there was no limit as to expense, because a good education would really work wonders for an individual, for us, for example, the children. And that's why, modesty aside, all my siblings, both my brothers, are professionals. The eldest being a lawyer. The second being a doctor, and me also being a lawyer. So education-wise, we were really prepared for what's to become. And in my chosen field of public service, and now being a counselor, the essence of being a counselor really, or the job of a counselor, is really to make laws. Kung sa Binisaya, pagpanday og balaod, no? And who is the expert? O kinsa may suhito sa balaod, di ba, ang abogado? So that's why running for this position and serving the public in this capacity of making laws, my profession as a lawyer really fits, no? Or nihaom gyud sa maong position that I am in right now and running for. So those are the things really basically that
That formed you.
that really formed me.
You know, you mentioned earlier that, of course, you were influenced greatly by your father and your grandfather, right?
Right.
You know, before you became city councilor, before you became the barangay councilor of Barangay Kamputao, Lahog, you were also your father's son, right? I mean, like
Right.
you were the son of a former mayor,
Right.
for 2 terms, right?
Right, right.
You were the son of Alvin Garcia, Mayor Alvin Garcia. What was it like? What was life like being the son of a mayor? Take us through that moment or moments when you were still the son of Alvin Garcia, the mayor at that time, back in the 90s, right?
Right, right. 1995 to 2001.
Okay.
Well, very, very different because you know you're sort of in the limelight, and you had to put up with his being a mayor and of course bringing the Garcia family name, because you know it's not only this clan of the Garcias that's in public service, also my relatives from Cebu province. To name the former governor who's running for governor, Gwen Garcia, of course the former congressman and also former governor Pabling Garcia, who is my grand lolo, so to speak. No, I mean sorry, grand uncle, so to speak. So you know you had to grow up trying to emulate and be like them, because people would really look up to them as their leaders who can make change in their lives, who can make change in their sitios, in their barangays, in the city. So, you know, you had to be at par with that. So that's something which I had to grow up with. I had to exceed expectations as well from people around. And I would even say when I took up law school, I had a teacher who said, when I came in class, you know, I didn't even know the teacher. But the teacher goes, "Oh, Raymond, your grandfather was my teacher. And I have very high regard for the Garcias." And this and that. And then another teacher would come up to me and say, "Oh, don't worry about passing the bar, because you're going to pass the bar. The problem is, your problem would be topping it." So things like that, you know, even in that aspect of lawyering, you know, people already...
So would you say you had it easy, or was it harder for you?
It was more difficult.
Okay.
I would say it was more difficult.
Would it be easier for you, let's say, to get a reservation for maybe a restaurant, perhaps, or maybe like when you go inside a room, people already know you, so you didn't have to introduce yourself? Was it easier, or was it harder? Was it did it spoil you, or did it hone you into becoming
It
who you are
honed me.
now?
It honed me to become who I am now.
Okay.
I learned a lot of things which a lot of people don't see. I learned, especially when I was barangay councilor, you get to see the problems in the sitio, down to the sitio level, the individual problems of the different families. You see all of those. So it really honed me to become who I am.
You know, son of a mayor and now city councilor, but during that time, if you look back long enough, your dad Alvin Garcia and Mayor Tommy Osmeña now were buddies, right? They were party mates. In fact, he was the vice mayor of Tommy Osmeña at that time, back in the 90s. Before that, right?
Right.
And there was a sort of like a falling out. In fact, it was a sort of like an epic
Right.
falling out. I don't want to go back too deep, but take us to as deep as you can. What happened? What happened to
Okay.
Alvin Garcia and Tommy Osmeña, who were party mates originally? Now, at that time, they became like sort of worst political enemies at the least. Yeah.
Well, they started their political career in 1988.
Okay.
Mayor Osmeña, you know, went on exile in the United States because of martial law,
Okay.
and he came back. When he came back, he really had nothing. He had practically no friends, practically no money as well,
Okay.
and no house to live in
Okay.
that he owned. So he came back. He had nothing, and then, of course, it was my father and some of his friends. No, like you have, and also of his relatives. I remember Sammy Darza, the late Sammy Darza. I remember Gabby Layson. These were his close friends who, you know, who supported him all the way. And this was in 1988.
1988.
88.
Okay.
So they ran together. And at the time, I remember my father coming to us kids and my mom and saying, nobody wants to run for Tommy Osmeña's vice mayor. And he asked me to be his vice mayor. So
in the beginning, after arriving from the United States, he started
right.
his political career running for mayor?
Yeah, that was...
From the get-go?
No, from the get-go, at the time, I think the mayor was Boy Cuenco.
Okay.
And the vice mayor at the time was Augusto Go, the owner of UC.
Okay.
They were a very formidable tandem because they were the incumbent at that time. So I think the plan was just to, for both of them, I think, to just run for councilor under that slate. But then I think what happened was the Cuenco-Go tandem rejected them. So they had no choice but to run for mayor and vice mayor at the time, so if I'm not mistaken. And well, the rest is history. So
they won.
They
first
both won.
time.
They both won the
Okay.
first time, and then they won re-election again in 4 years after. And then Mayor Osmeña did not run anymore, and so my father ran and became mayor for 2 terms. Well, you know, my version, how I saw it, was that even if my father was mayor at the time, Mayor Osmeña would still want to control him, would still dictate what to do, would still, you know, want his way in the council, or, you know, how things are done in the city of Cebu, even if he was just a civilian and not anymore the mayor of Cebu.
Why did he do that? Did he feel that he was entitled to do that because he sort of like
Well,
helped make your father a mayor? Or what was his thought process?
Well, probably.
What do you think?
Probably. And, you know, you cannot say that he made my father the mayor, because it was really the people who voted for my father.
Okay.
And it was my father really helped him become mayor.
Okay, in the first place.
In the first place. We had nothing here. Okay. So that's basically what happened. And then, so
where did the falling out start?
well, it started really when he wanted to call the shots already at City Hall, and he would criticize my father publicly for doing this and for doing that. You know, when he could have, you know, just said, oh, you know, I think this should be done, I think. I mean, and then just respect the decision of my father, who was the mayor at the time. But no, he had a different way. He would fight him, he would go to the media, etc., etc. And then he would even insult my family and, you know, insult my grandparents and even us kids. So that was something already that was way
Was
below
there like
the
an
belt.
agreement between you and, I'm sorry, your dad and Tommy, that, you know, after this you're going to run, and then, you know, like,
None.
was there like an agreement between the two of them?
There was no agreement.
Okay.
There was really no agreement whatsoever.
So your dad or Tommy didn't break any agreement of some sort?
None.
That after you run, I will run at the next term? Nothing like that?
Nothing
Okay.
like that. Nothing like that.
You know, Tommy Osmeña is the current city mayor of Cebu, right? How is he doing as a mayor? Give me your honest opinion on how he's running the show here in Cebu, and what are the good things that he's done, and what are the things that need a lot of improvement as far as his administration goes?
Well, to be frank about it, he has not really done that much the past few years. I would say that, to be fair to him, I would say that he was a very good mayor during the time, when he was first mayor, 1988, all the way maybe to after the term, no? 1988 maybe to 1992, and then of course my father took over. But he was a good mayor during the Tommy Osmeña Part 1. We could see that, you know, he really did a lot of things. He was able to discipline drivers. He was able to, you know, he was able to bring in more investments. Of course, this was together with Lito Osmeña. He was able to, you know, build roads, okay, asphalt roads, widen roads. These are the things that he did during the Tommy Osmeña Part 1. But, you know, he wasn't able to foresee a lot of the problems that we have now. Ironically, you know, people see him as a visionary, but 30 years after, and now he's mayor again, and he has been mayor maybe for about 22 to 23 years, but he wasn't able to foresee a lot of problems. The traffic now is terrible. You know, if you were a visionary and you sitting mayor 30 years ago, you would have done something about it.
Yeah.
Right?
For sure, yeah.
For sure. And nothing, it's getting worse and worse. You know, what kind of visionary are you? You're not able to foresee the traffic. You know, number two, the flooding, the baha is really terrible. You know, rainy season, it's up to knee high in some areas. In some areas, it's even up to neck or waist high. I mean, again, if you were mayor 30 years ago, you would have seen the problem. You would have foreseen the problem and make, you know, a difference by budgeting for maybe larger drainage, larger culverts or better drainage system. You know, nothing. You know, it's gone from bad to worse. Another thing which he never foresaw was our garbage. We're spending tons and tons of money for the tons and tons of garbage that we are throwing. During the time of former Mayor Mike Rama, it was 120 million a year. What we spend to throwing our garbage to Consolacion or to wherever it is. Now we're spending 690 million a year. You know? And, you know, is it a significant change from 120 million to 690 million? No significant change. In fact, it's worse, you know. So these are the three basic things that the mayor has not done, you know, and he has
Traffic, flooding, and garbage.
Yeah, three major things.
Well, people are saying that one of the reasons why the mayor can't do anything is because we have a split council. You know, you can't do anything because the other will always, you know, veto or block something that the other guy is trying to do, the other party is trying to do. Is that a fair assessment on why the city mayor or even the city council is not as effective as you would like it to be?
No, that's a fallacy. The first term, the second term, all the terms of the mayor, he had full control of the council.
Okay.
All of them were his allies. Okay. It was only in 2016, only in 2016, where majority of the councilors belonged to the opposition. But then, that was only for 1 year. Because we had some balimbings who jumped ship, you know. You guys like Dave Tumulak, for example, Jerry Guardo, for example, Marian de los Santos, and even Hans Abella, no? They were turncoats. They, you know, and for lack of a better term, they were the balimbings of the council at that time. So he was able to gain majority for only about a year. The opposition was minority for about minority for the rest of the 3 years.
So that's a fallacy.
So that's a fallacy. That's really not correct.
Okay.
Okay.
You, together with your party, are under the Duterte camp, right?
Right.
Duterte umbrella. What do you call the party again? The
PDP Laban.
The PDP Laban, and there's a
Barug. Barug is the local party.
Barug, the local party.
Right.
You know, it's always been perceived by political pundits that Cebu, the national politics does not affect local politics in Cebu. Do you think it still holds true? And if no, why do you think national politics, meaning to say in this case national politics, the endorsement of the president is crucial for local candidates to win?
Well, obviously, the endorsement of the president is really crucial, especially if you have a very popular president. You look at the surveys now, depending on SWS or Pulse Asia. But in Pulse Asia, he has an approval rating of about 82%. So can you imagine, 8 out of 10 Filipinos approve of him, trust him. Okay, so that for me it translates into votes for his chosen candidates. Now, if you say it does not affect, politics in the Philippines has changed tremendously with the entry of President Duterte. President Duterte did not have a single governor, did not have a single mayor except maybe for his daughter. But the entire Philippines, all the barangay captains, barangay councilors, governors, mayors, congressmen, were supporting the Liberal Party. Okay? And nobody was supporting Duterte. In fact, he did not have money. In fact, people would pay to print their Duterte shirts. People would pay to print their tarpaulins just so that they have a Duterte tarpaulin that they can put out in their house. in their homes. So right now, the Duterte phenomenon is something that has changed the way politics is played here in the Philippines. And I truly believe that because of this change, because of his popularity and how he won, it has also changed how local politics would play. Now I would believe that a president this popular and who has changed the landscape of Philippine politics can now influence actually local voters. No? And in this sense, his endorsement will carry a lot of weight down the local level.
So the Philippine politics has changed dramatically.
Right. I
it
believe
has shifted in a really major way. What do you think is the main reason for the emergence of Rodrigo Roa Duterte? Why do you think it made it possible for somebody who doesn't have a lot of support and a lot of financial resources win
People were
a national election?
people are really fed up
Okay.
with the current system. They felt like the presidents in the past has really not done anything. You know, the President Aquino, to President Arroyo, to President Estrada, people felt that nothing was really happening in their lives. And they wanted to feel change in their lives, down to the barangay level. And no president has done that ever since. And that's why there was a call for change. And they saw the change in President Duterte.
Don't you think that the internet, social media, has a lot to do with the emergence of a leader like Duterte? Because this is not just something that is happening in the Philippines. It's happening all over the world, right? These so-called strong men, leaders that have emerged all over the Western world as well, not just here in the Philippines and Asia. You know, a lot of them come from out of nowhere. You know, like people who do not have the traditional support. They're getting support from somewhere in the corners of the internet that has allowed people like Duterte to emerge in Philippine or national politics. What are your thoughts on how the internet has played, social media to be more specific, has played a key role in creating a Rodrigo Duterte?
Wow, tremendous influence the internet has on people in general. So of course, if you want to get your message across people, you have to go to the internet. And that's really the new medium now. I mean, Facebook, Twitter, IG, and all of those other, social media applications, they're making waves, really, so to speak, in the internet. And so it has really influenced because everything is now instant. And that's what the millennials want. They want instant news, they want instant information, and they're getting it in the internet. So that's why people are really glued to the internet.
So you're saying that if there was no social media, if there was no Facebook, if there was no internet, for example, it would not have been possible to have President Rodrigo Duterte either?
Correct. Because, when you look at the internet, you just look at your phone or you look at your laptop or an iPad or whatever it is, and the person speaks directly to you. You get what he's saying firsthand. And it affects you immediately, instantly, right there and then.
It's like an instant machinery, right?
Exactly. So
you mentioned that millennials want instant stuff, right? Instant change, instant this, instant that. Isn't that counterintuitive to how running a nation is? Isn't change supposed to be, the real change, I mean, it's supposed to be like a slow process, like the way evolution has come up with us Homo sapiens. It took thousands, if not millions of years to evolve before it got to who we are now as a species, right? Isn't change supposed to be slow? And if it's overnight, if it's quick, it's not real change. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, you're partly correct. The change that we know is something that takes a longer period of time. Because
more patience.
Yeah, more patience. Because especially if you change mindset.
Exactly.
Yeah, you're so used to the traditional things that you're doing, and you want to change the mindset of a particular individual, for example, it will take time. And, it is more meaningful if you completely absorb that change within you. So yes, I do agree that it would take relatively longer than just something that's overnight. But, our millennials now, they have a different type of thinking, they have a different mindset. Precisely because when they woke up, they already have the internet, they already have social media.
So aren't you setting them up for disappointment since real change happens in long periods of time and you're promising them sort of like a short-term or instant change? Isn't that going to disappoint them because real change takes time and they're going to be disappointed seeing that the changes are actually just a very, let's say, superficial and not...
In some
deep
instances,
change?
yeah, they will feel disappointed. In some instances, yeah. But, as I've said, the millennials are, they have a different way of thinking, totally. And I can see it in a lot of, my nieces and nephews. They really have a totally different mindset, so to speak. And, it's really instant gratification that they want. They, which can also be dangerous, in a sense. It can also be dangerous. So that's why we have a lot of, different things that are happening nowadays. I mean, we can see more millennials being disappointed right away, and they don't know how to cope with the disappointment, and they do some drastic measures. So, yeah, you're right in a sense that change should take more time, and you have to be more patient with it for it to truly be absorbed in an individual.
Just because they think like that doesn't make it right?
Right.
I mean, like the millennials, because they're so exposed to social media, they are so they're gratified instantly by perhaps the number of likes that they have. If they want to see a video of somebody or something, they can find it right away on the internet. But feeling like that doesn't make it right. In fact, there's a lot of scrutiny now with Facebook, for example, about privacy issues, about how Facebook has manipulated billions upon billions of users into because the business model of Facebook is really attention, right? So
Exactly.
the emergence of fake news, right? Anybody can just be a media outfit. Like I can come up with like Jiggy News and post news about how Raymond Alvin Garcia died yesterday when he choked on a microphone during an interview. I could do that, and I can just post it away, and not all of the people who will read it will believe it, but some of them will probably do believe it. So the internet is littered with time bombs, right? How do you think a politician will navigate through all these time bombs, these fake news, all of these bad things that are also happening, in spite of all the good things that it does to a lot of people?
Well, for us politicians, the important thing really is getting the message across.
Okay.
So, what we have to do is just, prop up our page, build up our page, our Facebook account or a page, whatever it is, no? And that's how you just send messages to other people, no? To your audience. Now, when you talk about time bombs and all of these things, it's very difficult because you cannot really control what other people are saying about you, for example.
Actually, you can. In fact, the issue now with the United States and the Russians is the Russians were trying to manipulate the elections so that Trump would get a positive feedback from Facebook, right? It's been talked about, it's been documented,
Right.
and it is actually possible. If with that Analytica company,
Yeah.
Cambridge Analytica, right? Remember that? So you can actually manipulate the way people think, especially the millennials, since they're internet natives. They woke up with the internet, so you can actually show them stuff that are for or against a specific candidate, and and sort of lure you into feeling a certain kind of feeling to a certain kind of candidate. In this case, in favor of Trump. So you can manipulate the hearts and minds of people through the internet.
Well, in that sense, yes.
Yeah,
More of large scale, you know.
Yeah.
It's,
Mass scale.
Mass scale, yeah. But what I was saying is, if you have negative comments there, for example, against a candidate, that's something that you cannot control anymore.
You can delete it, right?
Yeah, you can just delete it.
Yeah.
You can just, make a counter argument, for example. But that's insofar as that is that's concerned. So what we want to do as politicians is really get the message across to show people what you have been doing for the city, what you've been doing for the people of Cebu, for example. And that's the only thing that, like me, that's what I'm just focused on doing.
A lot of leaders of nations have tried to sort of degrade or to put down traditional media. The CBSs and the ABS, CBNs, the GMAs and the NBCs and the CNNs and all that stuff, and have tried to destroy their credibility in favor of just listening to voices on the internet. And a lot of, like I said, these pseudo media outfits have propped up, right? Nameless, faceless companies have posted a lot of news online, and a lot of people actually have believed in these media, the out of nowhere media outfits. What are your thoughts on the battle of traditional media? These established media outfits, the newspapers, the Sun Stars, the Freemans, and news coming from the internet that are faceless, nameless entities. They just come up with news in favor or against somebody just to destroy or to build up a candidate.
Well, of course, traditional media for me has more credibility because they've been there for years and years and years, and they have established that credibility, that integrity. They have built their name or their names through so many years, and they were able to overcome all of the obstacles that came their way. So that being said, I think traditional media has more credibility than the media now, because we have a lot of fly-by-night news agencies, for example, that are just there to destroy candidates or to promote
share
candidates.
these posts, and then when I look at the source, I go, what is this?
That's why.
What is this Cebu News? Whatever.
Right.
These are. I've never heard of them. And I don't know where their offices are, so they can just say whatever they want without fear of retribution, because you can't go to their offices and scream at somebody, if you know what I mean.
Exactly. So that credibility now becomes an issue, especially for news.
Okay.
And that's why a lot of people still trust the CNNs, the GMA, the ABS-CBN, Sunstar, Freeman, Cebu Daily News, Inquirer, and all of those traditional media that have been here for the longest time.
Okay.
So, I think the thing that really differentiates the new media and the traditional one is really credibility. People still believe in, like that's what you were saying. When you read the news article, you look at the source. So if it's not a familiar source to you, then you say, it's probably fake news. But if it comes from a reputable source, then you say, oh, this is probably true. So,
let me backtrack a little bit, since we were talking about this is a local interview, so let's speak to the local guys some more. The current mayor now is doing a so-so job compared to, let's say, the first iteration, the first version of Tommy Usmeña. He's not as good as before. And of course you have the support of Duterte, right? If let's have a thought experiment, Raymond. If Duterte was the mayor of Cebu City, would things have been better, different?
I think so. I believe so. It's Cebu City is like the fourth richest city in the entire Philippines.
Okay.
And Davao is probably maybe from 10 to 20. I'm not too sure of the ranking.
Okay.
But for sure, I know that Cebu is in the top 5.
Okay.
So essentially, Cebu has more money than Davao, for example. But look at Davao compared to Cebu. It's poorer than Cebu, but it's cleaner than Cebu. It's safer than Cebu. You know? So, that's probably because of what the mayor has done locally. And Duterte, President Duterte, is the factor, is the
Where do you
the
go?
more important-
Where do you get your information about it being safer and cleaner? I mean, like, is there like a statistic that will show that? Is it safer? Do we have
it's definitely
do we have no? Is there no drug problem in Davao? Is there like less people getting killed in Davao? What are you saying? Where does that come from?
well. When I say safer, I talk to a lot of people who've been to
So
Cebu.
anecdotal evidence.
Yeah, anecdotal level.
Okay.
Who've been to Cebu and Davao, and they tell me that when they compare Cebu and Davao in terms of safety, peace and order, it's a lot better
They
there.
feel safer.
They feel safer, yeah.
If Rodrigo Roa Duterte was mayor of Cebu City, would you have allowed him to be mayor for 22 years? Because that's how long he was mayor in Davao City. Would you have allowed that? And, or would you have wanted a different, perhaps, face, maybe on the 6th year or on the 12th year?
Well, I'm biased because I think that he really did a good job in Davao.
Okay.
If he has been, but he has been mayor for 22 years. And look at Davao now. It's safer than Cebu. The garbage is more contained compared to Cebu. The baha or the flooding is better than Cebu. The peace and order definitely is better than Cebu. So that
you would
being
have allowed
said,
that?
I would have allowed that.
You would have supported a mayor that's been sitting for how many terms? 6, 7
Yes,
terms. Yeah.
yes. A mayor that really has a vision for the
Okay,
city
Okay.
and
But,
who could have solved all of those problems.
Especially when you talk about dynasties, right? One of the key arguments against dynasties is it really is the right optimal condition for corruption. Because if a candidate or a family member of the candidate just continues to sit on a position for a long period of time, the checks and balances become almost impossible because it's just the same person trying to run an organization, in this case a city, right? So it sort of hides a lot of misdeeds, so to speak, right? What are your thoughts on that? Isn't it a better society if every now and then another family sits instead of the same person over and over again? Like encourage new faces, new names, new ways of thinking. So that way, in the same way that a branch manager can't be a branch manager of let's say a bank for a long time, because that will create a condition of corruption, because he knows too many clients personally, and something bad might happen. So what are your thoughts on that, on the length of public service of an individual or of a family?
There are always two sides to a story,
Okay.
two sides to a coin. And I would like to believe it in this way. So if you're a good public servant,
Okay.
or if you're a good mayor, then, by all means, you can stay for as long as you want, provided that, of course, the service that you provide to the people are excellent.
Okay.
Okay, because we also have this practice here in the Philippines, wherein even how many good projects you have, if it is your project, the next administration will not pursue
Yeah,
it
exactly.
anymore.
Yeah.
See, so that being said, if you're a good mayor and you have very good projects, and because your opponent now takes over and will set aside those good projects, it's also counterproductive for the.
There's
for
no
the-
continuity, right?
There's no continuity.
Okay.
So if you're a good mayor, then by all means, then you can for as long as the people like you, then be
So that's a
voted
good
upon.
side
That's a good side.
of a name, an individual or a family running a city for a longer period of time. There's a lot of continuity.
Exactly. So, one of my biggest frustrations here was there were a lot of projects that my father started. Like, for example, the opening of the road from Guadalupe to Lahug, which would have decongested Escario. But because Mayor Osmeña took over, he never,
Why is that?
He did not.
Why is that? I mean, let's not just be specific with Mayor Tommy Osmeña, although we will be referring to him. Why is that politicians are like that? Why is it that when another government, another regime takes over, another family takes over, we start from scratch?
Exactly.
Why don't you want to continue a good thing?
Because you don't
and
get the
stop a bad
credit.
thing?
You don't get the credit for it.
So
because it was started by your opponent.
So credit is very important.
Yeah. Actually, for politicians, yes. I mean, another example, the CCMC.
Okay.
Okay? That was started by Mayor Mike Rama.
Okay.
Now, it's almost the next elections. It was planned to be operational by 2017. Now it's 2019 and it's still a skeleton. Nothing is actually happening to the CCMC now, which is a good project. It's a hospital for the people.
So a lot of us folks, bystanders, who just are just reading the headlines, think that it's about the money. Like, I didn't get a commission from that project, so I'm not going to pursue that. I'm going to open another project that will allow me to get like a cut, for example, so that I will block that project and pursue a new one. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, that may be part of it. I mean, I don't know how those other politicians think in terms of graft and corruption, but for me, one of the main reasons is really credit. Credit. Who gets the credit for that, etc. And you don't have. Okay, if you don't want to talk about Cebu City, look at the province. Very good project by Governor Gwen Garcia was the CICC.
Okay.
Extremely. I mean, everybody now is looking for an area where you can host big events. I mean, you should know about that. The tourism industry and sector was, they were rooting for that particular project. They wanted it to be reopened, but because it's Governor Gwen's project, they just set it aside, even if it's good for the city of Cebu. So, I hope this does not happen. I hope politicians realize that if it's a good project, then it should really be implemented, even if your opponent started it.
But isn't it? I'm just trying to play the other side. Isn't it a good thing for a new administration to adopt a good project? Doesn't that also give them a lot of credit for not, politicizing a project, for example, and embracing it because it's a good project?
Exactly.
Can't you tell your constituents, I'm supporting my opponent's projects because they're a good thing and they're good for the city? Don't you think that that's also going to be a plus points for the sitting mayor, for example, to be able to? Hold on, give me a second.
Oh. Sabi nawa ang baterya?
So isn't it a good thing that a sitting leader adopts a project of the previous administration? Isn't that a good thing for him when he says, I have set aside my politics and embraced my opponent's projects? Isn't that a good thing for him?
That's a very good thing. I mean, I would say so.
Why don't they think like that?
I don't know. I really don't know. Maybe because I think it's the mindset. Most politicians have the mindset that if it started with my opponent will get the credit, even if because I just finished it.
Okay.
But he started
Okay.
it. So he should get the credit and not me. And that's why they don't pursue that project anymore.
Is there a specific project that the current mayor, Tommy Osmeña, is doing or is currently doing that you would continue if given a chance? Give me a specific project.
You know what? In the city council, when we were majority, they were always saying that Team Babag Konome, we were not pursuing the projects of the mayor, but that's not true.
Okay.
In 2017, we'll just talk about the budget.
Okay.
In 2017 and 2018 and 2019, all of the mayor's budgets we all approved.
Okay.
All approved. Because if we were a council that blocked the mayor's projects, we could have slashed the amounts and reduced it into half if we wanted to. But we didn't, because we saw that it was good for the city of Cebu. So we approved all of that. He asked an authority to sell 3 hectares of SRP property at 110,000 per square meter. We all thought that it was a good idea because 110,000 is a really high price for an SRP property. So we all agreed to it. I mean, if
So
it is,
there are projects
I
that
mean,
you
if
would
it is
continue.
exactly, if it is good for the city, then why not? We all have to approve it. But if it's bad for the city, if it's anomalous, then of course we have to stand up for the interests of the Cebuanos, and make sure that the city's coffers or the funds of the city are protected, just like the Kawit Isla de la Victoria project that the mayor is pushing. He always says that it will provide 5,000 jobs, etc., etc. Yes, but the contract is highly anomalous. Imagine, I go around, I talk to drivers, I talk to yayas, I talk to vendors, I talk to anyone. And this is the question that I asked them. I asked them, okay, naninda man ka og barbecue, for example, okay? Sige, mag-abli ta og negosyo, partners tang duha. Ikaw, mubutang ka og puhunan 10,000 pesos. Ako, mubutang ko og puhunan nga 18,000 pesos. So, the total now is 28,000. The 10,000 puhunan is roughly about maybe 37% of the entire 28,000. 37 to 40%. Okay? Now, our karinderya now makes money. Okay? May man tagkita. Inigbahin nato sa kita. Inigbahin nato sa profit. I will only give him 10%.
Okay.
And I get the 90.
Okay.
So, when I ask them, they always say, uy, alkansi man mi ana konsehal. Kay akong gibutang 10,000 man ka. And it is already 37% of the entire capital. Why am I only getting 10% in return?
Are you comparing that to the Kawit deal?
Exactly. And then I tell them, and your 10%, I will give it to you on the 9th year of our operations. And then the guy goes, mamatay na lang ko konsehal, di gyapon ako makuha ang akong kita.
Okay.
It's exactly the Kawit deal. The Kawit is 10 hectares worth 10 billion is what the city owns, that is putting in the project. Here's Robinson's, Universal Hotels. They're building 3 hotels and 1 gambling casino. Total value investment is about 18 billion. So 10 billion versus 18 billion.
Okay.
After all has been said and done, we only get 10% of the revenues. And we get it on the 9th year of operations.
How much would that figure be based on projection?
Well, it depends because on the first year, first, second, third, fourth, fifth, it's almost zero.
Okay.
It's really almost zero. Well, no, of course, first to the 9th year is zero because we don't get anything on the first 9 years. So we only get something on the 10th year and the 11th year. But then again, when on the 10th year, when some of the areas have already been built, you don't expect tenants right away.
Raymond, all of these big projects that we're talking about here, does not really concern a lot of our brothers and sisters who are living in a bahay kubo somewhere, squatting somewhere in some lot that was given to them by the government, right? In fact, from what I understand, from the way Cebu politics is built, you need the masa vote. You need these people, the forgotten thousands of Cebu, to be able to win an election here in Cebu, right? Kaya nang nandiyo ka mga panya sa mga ngilit ni dapit, right? Sa mga
correct.
Squatters area, kanang mga tao nga sa bukid, mountain barangays, right? Because they will mean winning or losing an election. But my question here, Raymond, is this: it's not a secret that a lot of major corporations, interest groups also support candidates, right? Like yourself and like the mayor. So they pour in a lot of money into a campaign. Correct me if I'm wrong. They pour in a lot of money into a campaign so that their interests will also be protected, right? So how is money influencing from money from big corporations and interest groups, including drug lords. How has that affected the elections here in Cebu recently?
Well, you can see that money plays an important role in elections in the Philippines. I mean, compared to other countries, first world countries, it's more of mind conditioning through advertisements, etc.
That also takes a lot of money.
Yeah, which also takes a lot of money. But here, there in other places, most of your budget is in media, right? I would even say 80% of your budget will be media. But here, no, 80% of your budget is on election day.
Okay.
Because that's where you buy votes. So that's what I'm saying, that that's what I'm saying. Money plays a factor here in Philippines.
In terms of percentage,
So-
let's say 50%, 60%, 100%. Remember, Duterte didn't have any money. You said
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
how much of a factor is money from big corporations and from interest groups?
But the Duterte presidency, that was a phenomenon.
Okay.
And for me, it was because people really wanted change. And they really didn't, they didn't anymore look at the money aspect of it.
Okay.
But in local politics, I mean Cebu City, Cebu Province, and it's still a money game. And it's not only just influencing people to vote for you, but of course the sad reality is the person that can, the candidate that can perhaps
Give more money. Okay.
what in terms of whatever it is, no, in terms of
Support. Yeah.
rice, sardine,
Basketball
whatever,
court.
basketball, whatever it is,
Often. Yeah.
projects. That's what I mean by money. Huh?
Okay.
Not necessarily giving
You mentioned
dole-outs.
the word vote buying.
Comes in a lot of forms.
Where do these candidates get their money? I mean, is it safe to say that they're getting it from the support of big corporations, companies that want their interests protected?
Well, a lot of the, I think, I mean, it happens all over
Or
the
is
world
it from
anyway.
from our own pockets, from
well, a lot of
money from the government?
well, a lot of it really comes from supporters that you have. Whether it be family, it be friends, it be big corporations, small corporations. They all want to help, and not all help because they want their interests to be protected. Some help because they really want to help.
So is there real money from interest groups, from corporations, and from maybe perhaps, like I mentioned, drug lords? Is there a huge amount of cash coming from their in terms for financial support for a specific candidate?
Yes, definitely. There is. But don't ask me who receives them or who
Okay.
gives them.
Okay.
Because that I don't know.
Okay. So so the voices of these corporations, these interest groups, are louder than the voices of the vast majority of voters?
Well, not necessarily.
Are they drowned by the voices of these poor people? Are they drowned by the money that the corporations are giving to these candidates? Are the interests of these major corporations above those of the poor people of
Well, not necessarily.
because of the money?
Not necessarily. Because even if you have so much money and you pour in projects and you give rice, for example, I mean, like what the city government is doing
Okay,
now,
okay.
giving rice to habal-habal, asphalting right and left.
Yeah.
It's not really an assurance that
Okay.
you can win an election.
Okay.
Because people still have their own minds, so
Okay.
to speak. But having having those that as money is an advantage, because you can already get credit for whatever project, for example, that you're doing.
So in terms of percentage, how important is money? You never answered that question. 50%, 100%?
I would say 50%.
50%.
Yeah.
So you have to have 50% money and you have to have 50% something else, right?
Yeah. 50% you have to do the hard work and campaign.
Okay.
And go out to the different sitios and the different barangays. Because, one of the things that that is a key to winning is really getting your message across
Okay.
and being more visible to people. And that's why you have family names that are coming back over and over again, because people will say, oh yeah, I know that family. I know he's the son of so-and-so. I know he's the brother of so-and-so. I know he's the father of so-and-so, for example. So that is an aspect, that people know you. People know who you are. People know what you stand for.
You know, Raymond, I know you come from a very reputable political family name, Garcia, but you didn't become a barangay councilor overnight, right? Because I was there during the beginnings of Raymond Garcia, the politician. I was helping you out and all that stuff. Tell me about how hard it is to win an election here in Cebu City.
It's very difficult. You have to be in a strong political party. Independent candidates with no party, are close to impossible to winning.
Okay.
So you have to be in a very strong political party. So in this case, in Cebu City, you have you have two parties that are equally strong, and I think that if you are in one of them, you have a big chance of winning.
Okay. How long did it take for you to become city councilor? How many times did you run? How many failures did you have to go through, man?
I had a lot of failures.
Okay. How many times? Can you count them already? Do you want to count?
Twice.
Okay.
Yeah, I lost twice. In 2007,
Okay.
When Barangay Capitan of Lahug, Mary Ann de los Santos, decided to run for mayor.
Okay.
I remember that she had no vice mayor.
Okay.
And
And you ran for vice mayor, right?
and if it was just to be a protest run, to protest against the BOPK at the time,
Okay.
so I was there. It was more of a protest
Okay.
run than anything else.
Okay.
We both knew that we could not make it, we could not win.
Okay.
But just to give the people a choice, other than BOPK at that time, we were there to stand up and to show people. And the second time was in 2010. I ran for councilor. The reason why I ran also was because I just wanted to support my father, who ran for mayor at the time. So, we both didn't make it. So in 2013, that was the time I decided to run for barangay councilor in Barangay Camputao. And then in 16, eventually when I ran for councilor, I also won. So,
It took you maybe like 10 years, right? Or even longer,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
To
exactly
be able to
like that.
become a city councilor.
yeah. Everybody has his share of defeats
Yeah,
and, and victories.
I see all these politicians campaigning on social media, on television, and I even saw you campaign, firsthand. I think you were always singing in the campaign trail. This was the previous election.
Right.
I remembered I was there, and you were singing, and and I think you were doing a Martin Rivera song or something like that. Right? What was that song that you did?
Be My Lady.
Be My Lady. Yeah. How important is song and dance, and is that more important than the issues? I mean, like when you go out there, do the voters remember the person who sang the best, or do they remember the candidate that articulated his message across to them and they liked it?
It has to be both, actually, and that's what I did. First of all, I introduced myself.
Okay.
And then, of course, I told the voters who I am, being the son of the former mayor, having experience and background also in politics, of course, and also being a lawyer.
Okay.
The job of the lawyer, of the councilor, is really making laws, and the advantages of being a lawyer as a councilor in the city of Cebu. And then after that, some issues, and then after that, singing.
Sing and dance, right?
Yeah, singing. Now, sometimes if you sit down, you sit down and then you listen to 10 people speak. Sometimes it becomes so boring.
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
Right? So, singing would be a very welcome development for your audience. And mind you, they really remember.
Okay.
Because until now, which happened 3 years ago, when I go to the barangays, they still request me to sing Be My Lady. See, so it worked.
Okay.
They actually remembered me because of that.
Raymond, campaigning is hard. It's very stressful. It takes its toll in your physical and your mental well-being. You come from a very well-off family. You could have just practiced law, for example, or took care of your family business, maybe the newspaper or whatever. You could have done that route. You could have served a lot of people too, in your own way as a private citizen. Is it worth it? Is all that campaigning, all that, talking to a lot of people, squabbling over this and that, worth it? Or would you have been more effective helping other people in the private sector?
Well, of course, that's what I've been doing when I was not yet councilor of the barangay. I was trying to help in my own little way.
Okay.
But you're very limited. You're just very limited to the employees that you have.
Okay.
Some families of your driver or the house help. You're only very limited to that. It's a very small scale. And of course, you don't have that much resources. Now, when you are in government, it's such a bigger scale because your jurisdiction is 46 or even 80 barangays because you're councilor, you get elected in the North District, but you're actually councilor for everybody because the laws apply to everybody,
Yeah,
right?
for sure, yeah.
So, that being said, you can really make change and you can make a big difference if you're a government official. Because number one, as a councilor, you can make laws that will improve their lives, for example. And you can have access to government resources which can uplift their lives as well. So, in the private sector, you have a smaller scale, but then you have a more private life. And here in the public sector, you help more people, bigger scale, but you have a more public life. And for me,
it's worth it.
It was worth it because you help more people.
When you go to the slums, when you go to the barangay levels, the mountain barangays, and you talk to people, I'm sure one of the things that that occupy their mind is a lot of things that are occupying their mind. But I'm sure one of those things is these extrajudicial killings, right? Because we see them a lot, almost every day, in the headlines. What are your thoughts on this drug war, so-called drug war that we're waging? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, as a lawyer, I always believe that we must follow the law.
Okay.
There is a process to be followed, and that process is, if there is an accused, then he must have his day in court, and that's what we should really follow.
Okay.
But then again, the process of the warrant, maybe a warrant of arrest coming out, the process of looking for that individual, letting him answer for capturing him and letting him answer in court. That's something that we individuals, lawyers and non-lawyers don't see. It's only the police that see that. So then again, when they are serving a warrant, an arrest warrant or a search warrant, and their lives are in danger, then they have to engage because they might get killed themselves.
Okay.
So that's something which not too many people see. Because they are actually they're not the police. They're not enforcement agencies,
what
for
don't
example.
they see that it's a long process? What do you mean by they
No,
don't see?
what I mean is that they don't see the process of actually serving the warrant. When the police have to serve a warrant, has to go in the house, for example, and they get retaliated on or they get shot upon, then they have to shoot back. And that's probably where the killing happens, and but you cannot blame the government for that. I mean, totally, you cannot even blame the president for that.
But when the president speaks, everybody listens, right?
Right.
Like all leaders should, and he always talks like that. I'm going to shoot you. I'm going to kill you, right?
Yeah.
It inspires a lot of this violence. What are your thoughts on that, and how important the words are of a leader? And you can't just joke about it. You just can't say something for the sake of saying something. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, first of all, he was elected by the people, knowing that he has a relatively foul mouth.
Okay.
And apparently, people are not looking into that anymore. People just want to see results.
Okay.
So if the president's programs affected their lives, like perhaps in their sitio or in their barangay, they can see that there are less drug dealers, for example, or less people using drugs or less addicts, then for them that's enough. If it has touched them in such a way that it made their lives safer and better, for them that's enough. They don't care if the president has a foul mouth. They care about results.
We were talking about how change works earlier and how it takes a long period of time for change to actually, real change to actually happen. And a lot of people, the millennials you mentioned, are impatient and they want instant results, right? Isn't violence instant gratification? It feels like it's a solution, you know, it feels like you killed somebody, but isn't that bad long term? Because I've always believed that violence breeds more violence. It's an endless loop. You know, if somebody dies, you awaken the family, the friends of that person to more violence, and it'll never end. Isn't violence a short-term solution and not good in the long term?
Yeah, definitely. I agree with you 100%. But in this case, when the police does their operation,
Okay.
it's under the bounds of the law.
Okay.
It's not really violence per se, because they are just protecting themselves as well. And that is what I believe. I mean, when you say when it's violence, it's a guy going out just shooting people.
Yeah.
That's violence.
Yeah.
But if it's under a police legitimate operation, then that's not violence
but
anymore.
these questions are very questionable. In fact, a lot of people are looking into it, right? Would you support the police wearing GoPros and wearing
Definitely.
cameras? So, because that's what you believe, but you don't.
Yeah, you don't actually see.
You don't actually see
Yeah.
it, right? What's really going on out there? Do you support that? Do you think that'll deter a lot of all these so-called EGK,
Yeah.
extrajudicial
Yeah,
killings?
I think so. I support that move, so that everything is transparent.
Transparency. Let's talk about that. What do you think? How important is transparency in government?
Very important. The government has billions of pesos. In fact, Cebu City, for example, has a annual budget of about 8 billion. And we have supplemental budgets maybe amounting to maybe 1 billion as well. So, that being said, that is not the money of the government officials. It's the money of the people. So, I believe that the government is accountable for that money and should be transparent on how it is spent.
So, are there laws that allow us to be more transparent, or are you still crafting those laws? For example, I am for divulging a politician's personal bank account. I would like to see how much money a politician has. Before he ran for office, when he was elected office, after he ran for office, because I think that's crucial. I think it's crucial that I know what I'm getting into, who I'm voting for. What are your thoughts on a legislating law for transparency?
Actually, that we are the only country, I think, in the world that has laws that is very strict when it comes to public officials.
Okay.
And I say that because it is only in the Philippines that the ombudsman plays a role of a prosecutor, a judge,
Okay.
all at the same time, just so that it can go after erring or corrupt government employees. So that being said, I think we already have the laws for
Okay.
that.
So why all this corruption still?
Well, because sometimes the ombudsman just turns a blind eye. Sometimes the people just don't want. They also turn a blind eye. They just they don't want to report things like that anymore.
You mentioned that we have the laws for it. In the United States, every single cent dollar that is being donated to a candidate is in a ledger. If you accept money from, let's say, a known pedophile, if you accept money from, let's say, a known drug dealer, you're dead meat. If you accepted that money and used it, some candidates resign because they knew they accepted money from let's say, for example, a bad person or a bad company. Do we have that here in Cebu, in the Philippines? Is there a way for us to filter, to know where the money is coming from? Let's say you, for example, you get a 10 million deposit in your account, and it came from let's say a drug lord, for example. Would I be able to know that as a citizen, or no?
No, because we have a bank secrecy law.
Okay.
So you cannot know. But we do have a law that says that after the elections, you're supposed to file.
Supposed to.
Yeah. No, you are required to
Okay.
file a statement of contributions and expenses.
Why is it after? Why is it not before?
No. This is after. So that this is after elections, because so you'll know. Because it's only after elections that you'll know how much you actually
So
spent.
what happens if
And-
you accepted money from, let's say, a drug lord?
You're actually supposed to.
So do you
You
get
to state
disqualified?
it.
Do you get
No.
disqualified? So
No.
let's say, for example, for
You
the
don't-
sake of for argument, you found out that you didn't know about it during the campaign, but you received 10 million pesos from, let's say, a drug lord, and then you divulge it to Comelec or whoever the body is. So what happens to you? Do you return the money? Do you get disqualified? How does it work?
No. You're just all donations and all expenses. You're supposed to declare it in that particular statement.
And then
Now-
what happens to those that accepted drug money, for example? And won.
It's very difficult to prove.
And for the sake of this thought experiment, they found out that it came from a certain personality that is a known drug lord, for example. What happens to the candidate, to the politician who won, let's say, mayor or councillor? Do they get disqualified?
No, they don't. No, they don't. The disqualification only arises if you have spent more than what the law requires, for example.
that's it?
Yeah.
So the law does not determine whether it came from a bad source or not. It came from blood money or...
No. It does not.
So maybe that's where you should try to legislate and make a law where it comes
Well,
from.
there is
right?
already a law that says that all public officials cannot receive any gift
from
anybody. There's a law that says that already.
So, but that's a sweeping law, and nobody follows that. Right?
Nobody. Nobody declares it anyway.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, that's it. But apparently during election time, then you are now allowed. The public official is now allowed to accept donations, but as long as the public official puts it down in his statement of donations and expenditures.
Let's talk about donations and drugs. Narcopolitics is perceived to be playing a huge role in Cebu city politics. True or not?
Well, until now, we can see people getting caught. The recent one was in Inayawan. Made 120 million worth of shabu. So
how is it affecting our politics?
You can just imagine that if these people want protection, then they're paying barangay captains, barangay councilors right and left just to get protected. So it still plays a major role. It still affects how...
So you think there are a lot of politicians out there who are still receiving drug money?
Yes, definitely.
In Cebu City?
Yes, definitely. Definitely. But I just can't pinpoint who.
Okay.
That's not my job anyway, but I still believe.
If I am under the impression that if you've been a politician in Cebu for a long period of time, there's just no way on earth that you did not receive drug money either knowingly or unknowingly. Somebody must have snuck in some cash there in your coffers, and you didn't know it was from drug money, from blood money. So what are your thoughts on that? And this whole narco politician list that was announced, divulged by the government a few days ago. They're just it is the perfect tool to control elections, because everybody has received drug money anyway. So might as well make a list of my opponents who have received drug money. What are your thoughts on that? On how a politician has somehow, in shape or form, if you've been here long enough, received drug money?
It's very difficult to say or to tell that a politician received drug money, because the help can come from a drug lord,
Yeah.
but it is coursed through
A
somebody,
church, for example.
yeah, somebody who's legit.
Yeah.
So it's very difficult to tell, actually, very difficult. Unless it's really a drug lord who comes knocking in your door and says, "Here's the money."
Okay.
That's a different thing.
So Raymond, are we winning the drug war? Because many countries have tried and have lost, or are still back to square one. In fact, this whole drug war term was originally used by Ronald Reagan back in the 80s when he waged a drug war. And fast forward to 2019, the drug epidemic in the United States has gotten worse. Mexico, Venezuela, all these, Colombia. They've tried to wage war on drugs, and it doesn't look like it's working. Why do you think waging war on drugs will work this time? Or do you think that it'll work this time?
Perhaps for the next years that the president will be in power. I think because he has really put a lot of emphasis on drugs and the drug war. So I think that it's going to work in the next 6 years. But for as long as Rodrigo Duterte is president, I think it's going to work, because I've seen it happening. I mean, I go around just here in my barangay, and they tell me that things have really changed.
Okay.
So I think it will, in that sense, it will work. Now, maybe if it may come back with a vengeance. The drugs here in the Philippines may come back with a vengeance with a different president, whose priority is not anymore, stopping drugs, for example. So it may not work if you see another president.
A lot of these nations that have fought drugs for decades have some of them have this mindset now, that drugs is not a criminal problem. It is a social problem. You don't prosecute drug addicts. You help them. You change them. You make them better. You stop them from taking drugs. In fact, they're saying that if you stop the demand, the supply will stop. So if you build for example, a better society, then a more educated, a better society, then people will stop taking drugs and do something else. What are your thoughts on drugs being a social and not a criminal problem?
It goes both ways. I think that, yes, it is a social problem as well, because, as I've said, especially now, maybe, when people want instant gratification, they have a problem. In order for me to escape that problem, there's drugs.
I'll sell drugs, right?
I'll sell drugs, or whatever it is, no? That being said, then it becomes a social problem. But then again, if you try to cut the supply and make it less,
Available?
less available to people,
But
then it can help. I'm not saying it will completely eradicate the problem. It can help.
But doesn't that only make things worse? Because now the selling of these so-called illegal drugs will be left to the brave, to the dark side, to the darker forces of society. Because it's difficult now. I can't just sell drugs, because I'm going to get killed. So doesn't that make it more difficult, and maybe perhaps increase the price of drugs, because it's extra dangerous now to sell drugs?
You know what? I have encountered a lot of people, who were addicts here, or not only addicts, but who were into maybe selling drugs. And you know what the family solution would be?
Their family?
Their family send that particular addict abroad.
Okay. Yeah, I've known several people who are like
Yeah.
that.
And what happens? A lot of them, they really get reformed.
And came back here.
They really got reformed in the United States or in Canada or in Australia or wherever it is. Why? Because they didn't have friends who would influence them to drugs, and they didn't have any contacts. So they, in a sense, it changed. Why? Because there was no supply and there was no temptation. So I think that's the same model that this administration wants to follow. If you lessen the supply, the temptation is less, and perhaps it can help out in
Perhaps, yeah.
reforming an individual.
The United States now, you mentioned the United States, is suffering from another drug epidemic, the opioids, right? These are prescribed drugs by certain doctors, right? So even if you make something difficult to acquire, let's say cocaine and shabu and ecstasy and whatever drugs, people will always find a way to get high, so in this case in the United States they're taking prescribed drugs that are available in pharmacies. So again, let's go back to the social problem. You can make everything illegal, but something else will emerge to make people high. What are your thoughts on that? So that's why it's a social, it's a mental, it's a psychological, it's a social problem. You can never solve it by making things illegal.
I'm not discounting the fact that it is a social problem. I think that's first and foremost, it really is a social problem.
Okay.
But to have an abundant supply of drugs, knowing that you have a social problem, will only create more harm than good.
Okay.
So what I'm saying is, it is a two-pronged approach.
Okay.
One is you really try to control the social aspect of it.
Okay.
Like educating the individual, educating parents to be more loving to their children, for example, proper values, okay? And the other thing is also to lessen the supply. So I think it's a two-pronged approach, which the government should follow.
Is that what we're doing now? Follow. Is it a two-pronged approach?
Yes, I believe so. I believe so. The social problem now, I think we can do that with more education. Not directly like saying, hey, drugs is bad, etc., but by educating them in the academic way.
How bad is the drug problem here in Cebu City? Is it really that bad? I mean, like
it should be bad because
are we just blowing it out of proportions?
No, I only base it on what I read on the papers.
Okay.
And example, in one small barangay in Inaya 1, for example, you catch somebody bringing 120 million worth of shabu.
Okay.
Then it must be bad. It must be bad.
Do we have stats on how many are drug addicts in Cebu City, for example?
That I don't know.
Wow, we could go on all day about this, Raymond, but I know you have a campaign to do and all that stuff. We have a lot of young listeners out there who will be listening to this interview, and may want to vote for you or not, or may even want to run for office themselves one of these days because they want to have influence, not just in their company, but in an entire population, in this case, and in an entire city. What is your message to those who are aspiring politicians or who are excited to vote for the first time?
Well, to the millennials out there, to the young people out there, what is important is we are able to change society for the better. And how to do that, in whatever way, whatever little way you can, you should do it. Segregating garbage, for example, just little things, segregating garbage is one. Following traffic rules is also one. Even just within the household, respecting your parents. I mean, that's something that is already, that will uplift, the family, so to speak. So, just the little things that can be done by the youth, then do it. Now, if you want to help people in a larger scale, then you can join clubs, join societies, organizations, for example. And then from there, if you really want to be a public servant and help people in a larger scale, then run for public office. It's something that that is very fulfilling. In the end, it's really very fulfilling. You get to see people smile. You get to help people with their problems. So that being said,
I'd be remiss, Raymond, if I don't ask you this question. And a lot of them will be consuming this media, this interview in their cars, because this is a podcast and it's primarily audio, but there's a video version, of course. To those that will be listening to this in their cars, stuck in traffic somewhere out there, what is your solution to the traffic nightmare that is happening right now here in Cebu City?
There is no one solution to the traffic problem. In the same manner as there is no one solution to the drug problem. The drug problem, I mentioned, should be a two-pronged approach. The traffic should be a multi-pronged approach. Not only one, not only two, but more than just that.
Okay.
And when I say multi-pronged, one, mass transportation. Okay, this has to be improved, mass transportation. And I believe that the mass transportation that should be available in Cebu should not be BRT. Okay, we cannot have a transportation that will compete with our existing roads, our existing narrow two-lane roads. I mean, you go to China, they have 6 lanes there. So if you have a BRT, you close one lane, you still have 5 lanes that's left for all other vehicles.
Okay.
But here in Cebu, you put the BRT in Escarrio, which has only 2 lanes, which will go all the way to Talamban, which has also 2 lanes, and you close one lane, it's going to be a nightmare. So one, the mass transportation should be a mass transportation that should not compete with existing roads. So either you go underground or you go above ground. Second, maybe driver discipline. That should also be, that's one approach.
Driver discipline.
Driver discipline.
How do you do that?
People should, I think the government should hire more traffic enforcers, for example, and should be really strict in catching violators of traffic rules. And then maybe another approach would be improve our traffic lights, for example. This has been here since 1988. And for me it's already outdated. So that's also one. Maybe we can open more roads. Like as I've said.
Sorry to interrupt you,
Yeah.
but this looks really complicated and so many prongs that we have to just give me one. Just give us one. What do you think of all the good ideas that you have in solving this traffic problem? What do you think is the one thing that you do, not to completely solve it, but at least to have the most amount of positive effects on the traffic situation?
Well, an individual, ordinary driver, I think it should really be discipline.
Discipline.
Discipline should really. It starts with the individual.
You know what, Raymond? I have always said, because I'm always complaining about traffic, right? Not just on my radio show, but just to myself in the car. It takes a lot of political will to, let's say, stop tricycle drivers or habal drivers or the public utility transport system to stop it or to end it, to not renew their contract, because these are voters, mind you. These are people who will be voting for or against you, and you're going to be taking a lot of livelihood from let's say the jeepney drivers, for example, or the tricycle drivers, for example, because I frigging tricycle almost every day. And I tell myself this is the classic example of how progress is delayed, figuratively and literally. Because I have a tricycle in front of me who's driving at 10 kilometers per hour, and and there's a free road right in front of it. So the entire pack is hindered by that tricycle driver. Is is having the political will to change things, even though it might be bad for his candidacy or for his administration or for his future election happening? I mean, like, is there somebody out there who will do the right thing and not the popular thing?
Yep. Well, in order to solve many of our problems, we really need political will. And traffic is one of them. We need political will to implement the laws. Like, so what you're saying now about the tricycad
The jeepneys.
or the jeepney,
For me, if you just get that out of the streets and maybe find livelihood for these people elsewhere, because driving a tricycle or a jeepney is not the most efficient way to transport people, and it's also not the most efficient way for you to make a living. You know,
Correct.
you're driving 8 hours, 12 hours a day. You're tired. You only make a few hundred pesos at the end of the day. So it's not the best thing for you as a driver and for the passengers.
right, right. Then, you know, it will have to boil down to the economy. Then we have to have a better economy, so we'll have better jobs for our drivers,
Okay.
and of course, and all of those things. But right now, that's really their way of living, and it's very difficult to stop them from doing their way of living.
Especially
Yeah.
if you don't have an alternative job for them, right?
Exactly, exactly.
Don't politicians, don't you think of stuff like that?
Of course we do.
Don't you want to have, like, you know, let's just remove all the PUJs in Cebu City, and then give them another means of livelihood. That's probably even better than driving a jeepney.
But that's very difficult to do. I mean, if you talk, for example, of habal-habal drivers, you have about maybe easily 10 to 15,000 all over Metro Cebu, or even more.
And that's like thousands of votes, right?
And it's and aside from the fact that it's thousands of votes, it's thousands of jobs that you will have to provide for them.
Okay.
That will earn them at least the same as what they're earning now.
Okay.
So it's a very difficult job. It has to start with the economy, you know, and all of these things.
So traffic will be here to stay in the next few
Well,
years?
hopefully, I think it will be a lot better if we can have a good mass transportation here in Cebu City. And I think the Office of the President is doing something about it.
Okay.
So as we speak. So hopefully that's the first thing that will ease our traffic situation in the city of Cebu.
What particularly is in the president's desk now that might possibly change?
They're looking at a
Change
mass
the-
transportation LRT
Okay.
that will start from Car all the way to Danao.
How long is that project?
And
How-
wow, that will take a few years. You know,
like
a few years.
few years meaning?
Maybe, well, maybe they can start next year, maybe,
Okay.
and it should be functional and operational by the end of the term of the president.
Okay.
So that's one thing that's positive, that will ease traffic. Another thing that they're looking into is an expressway, from a 50 billion expressway from Danao to Karkar, so that, you know, if you are from Danao or you're from Karkar, and for example you want to get to the airport, just pass the expressway going straight to Mactan. You don't have to go through Mandaue, Cebu City, etc., which causes all the traffic. Or if you're from Karkar and you want to go straight to Danao, you don't have to pass Cebu City anymore, and Mandaue and
Okay.
whatever. So that's one of the things, the expressway, which I know is on the table, and of course the mass transportation, which is either underground or above ground.
Wow. You know, we could talk all day, like I said, Raymond, but you have a lot of things to do, and you have a campaign to, and you have a city to run as well. So before we wrap this interview up, we have a lot of viewers out there, listeners out there who are listening to this podcast right now. What do you tell them, voters, non-voters? How do we make Cebu City better? What's your message as a final
Well,
message?
we have to, in order to make Cebu better, a lot of things have to happen. And right now, I think that we have to choose the right leaders. If you ask me, of course, I'm very biased. I belong to the President's Party, the PDP Laban. And obviously, I think that he's doing a good job. I think that That's why 80% of the Filipinos trust him, because they think that he's doing a good job. You know, his war on drugs, for example, his war on corruption, for example. I think he has made substantial gains in that aspect, and people are actually feeling the change. They're not only seeing it, but they're also feeling the change. Now, if the people want the change to continue that the president is doing for our country, then I think they should elect candidates who are affiliated with the president, so that these candidates can furthermore the programs and projects of the president. So that being said, I'm biased because I am the candidate of the
For
president.
those who are not voters yet, or who can't vote,
For those who are not voters yet.
what's your advice to them? What do you tell them
well,
to make this city a better place?
Well, to make a difference in themselves, you know, not little things, you know, not littering, segregating garbage, it's one, following traffic rules, you know, and all of these things that them as individuals can do by themselves.
And what do you tell those who are frustrated about how things are going here in Cebu City?
Not to
to
lose hope. You know, if you lose hope for our city or our country, then that's the beginning of the end for you, because you would like to move, you would like to go elsewhere to another country, and we've seen that we've seen that all over. So do not lose hope, because you know, as we mentioned earlier, change doesn't happen overnight, and at least now with what's happening, at least I feel and we feel that to a certain extent, change is really happening.
And we're in the right direction.
Whether you're a Duterte supporter or not. And we're going towards the right direction. Because this is really the direction that we should be in order to improve our status, in order to improve our economy. So don't lose hope. You know, it will take time, but we're going to get there.
Okay, Raymond. I feel like we still haven't touched a lot of issues, but maybe we can have a second interview one of these days if you're not too busy.
Right.
Thank you so much for your time, and I'll talk to you again soon. Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you.